I'm Mia O'Brien, and coming up tonight on a post-game edition of the Jaguars Squad Show, as the philosopher Foye Oluokun once so eloquently said, it ain't pretty, but it's gritty. And it's okay to win ugly in the National Football League because it shows that that is the mark of a team that has multiple ways to skin a cat and get a dub.
I look at the standings and it says W and L. It says nothing about pretty and ugly. All right. So a win is a win. They got 12. We're going to get greedy and get 13.
At the end of the day, it's all about did you get the W done? Did you win the game? And they did. Wasn't pretty, but a win is a win.
Duval! It's the Jaguars Squad. Everything Jacksonville Jaguars every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Sunshine State, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Gear up! The Jaguars Squad Show starts now.
Happy Sunday night, party people. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Locked On Jaguars YouTube channel or on demand wherever you get your podcasts. Mia O'Brien, Tony T. Wigg Wiggins, Marques Ogden, excited to be hanging out with you for the next hour as we recap the Jaguars' impressive, maybe not the best adjective. We'll dive into that victory over the Indianapolis Colts 23-17, a statement in week 17 that the Jaguars don't just win games, T-Wig, by 14 plus. They can also win these ugly games that maybe they created the ugly mess, but that didn't stop them from finding a way to eke out a victory on Sunday. Before we go any further, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Tony Wiggins, let's begin with you. Your initial thoughts. Why are we classifying this as an ugly win following the Jaguars' 7th straight dub?
Yeah, because it was ugly, and I kind of anticipated
What
it.
defines ugly, though? Like, let's get into the crux of this.
You just don't feel real. You didn't feel comfortable the whole time it was going on, and there was all of this stuff that was happening. You're like, it looked like they're trying to lose the game, and man, they're just going about their business a certain way. But at the end of the day, it's one of those games where you're angry the whole time, and then once the clock strikes zero, you're cool because you just move on. Now, sometimes ugly wins, like early in the year, we were going, hey, before the Houston game, we were like, some of this stuff's going to hurt them one day. And in the fourth quarter against Houston, it did hurt them. But it's good to see that they can fix things really, really quickly during the game, as opposed to letting it linger and having to, like, they probably came out in the half saying, okay, we're going to go out here in the second half and get it done. But when it doesn't happen on the first drive, they don't sulk, the shoulders don't sag, the head doesn't go down. They get right back on the horse. They score. Indy scores, go up 17-14. Ain't no problem. We're gonna get it together. And they do it and they respond. And that's what you want to do. You want to respond to the adversity that you yourself created. And I thought they did that the entire time along the way. I thought they did it and had the game, and then the coach is throwing to the end zone for a Hail Mary. So maybe they didn't finish it. Maybe the clock just ran out, and we got lucky that the clock ran out, and that's a part of winning.
Marcus Heff says lack of execution, but Jas follows up and says, let's not forget the officials had some garbage calls. Wasn't pretty, but good teams find a way to win such games. We've already gotten some feedback from those already hanging out with us live, Marcus, about penalties, about mistimed execution of those trick plays. Certainly the hook and ladder with Travis Etienne front of mind when it comes to that. What would you surmise the reason we're calling this an ugly victory here Sunday night?
Because it was a victory that you didn't go out there and play your best. Like, I saw them playing down to the competition. When they played Denver, they were much more with it. They were in sync. They were in rhythm. They were making their plays. They were tackling well. They were a lot more physical against Denver. Today, they were not as physical. They did not execute as flawlessly as they did against the Broncos. They just, unfortunately, like I said, some of the things, the trick plays, things like that, were mishaps, did not go as well. Now, of course, penalties, garbage calls never help, but at the end of the day, you have to execute the plays that are called. And again, like I told you all earlier, they've got to get more physical with the offensive line, both in running and in pass protection. There was a lot what we call swinging the gate, or basically taking your back foot and swinging it open versus keeping it firm and steady, keeping it where your shoulders are square. When your hips turn before like 3 yards, that is a sign for a short corner. So again, a lot that I saw today, it was not pretty. Trevor Lawrence actually got knocked around pretty good today, but I'll say this. I was very happy to see him get knocked around and get right back in there and keep after. He did not let that rattle him. So even though that was not what you want to see, I like the response that I saw from Trevor Lawrence today.
Marques, before we go any further, first and foremost, we will dive into your offensive line concerns coming up a little bit later in the program. So, folks, you know you're going to want to stick around for that. I've heard, by the way, Marques, from people inside the Miller Electric Center, they loved your offensive line breakdown from Tuesday's show. So all the more reason to stick around here with us live for the next hour, because Marques is going to break down where the Jaguars offensive line needs to improve in the one remaining regular season game and then heading into the postseason. Now, Marques, whenever we say ugly and football, sometimes that means the quote unquote big uglies in the trenches. And again, we're going to address the offensive line. Let's flip it on over to the defensive line. Maybe was there a sentiment on that side of the ball that you said, you know what, it wasn't pretty, but they mucked it up and got the job done. And that ultimately may have led to the victory, even more so than Trevor Lawrence having a pretty good day at the office outside of a couple miscues here and there.
Yeah, the defensive line today did a fantastic job of getting after Phillip Rivers. They did a phenomenal job of keeping him off rhythm. Now, of course, he's 44 years old, so his rhythm's not what it used to be anyway, but they kept him on edge, and you could see his feet were not settling down in the pocket. And anytime you have a quarterback, what we call happy feet, Trevor Lawrence had a lot of happy feet the last few years before this year. And when you have happy feet, you can't settle down. You can't plant correctly. You can't drive off your back foot. You can't turn your hip, because what happens is to fire a football, it comes from your hip. Your hip pops and it turns as your feet are planted firm into the ground. And if you have happy feet, you cannot turn your hip because your hip is not going to move with fluid motion. If your feet are calling happy or dancing around, it's going to be like a torque, which you see like quarterbacks who have like bad hips, things like that, because they don't have good solid footwork. So the Jags defensive line was very good today, just really messing up and getting after the offensive line of the Colts. And again, we talked about this last time, right? Me and like T-Wig, if the Jaguars are going to make a push in the playoffs, it's going to be the big offensive line, the big nasties, and the defensive line is going to have to continue getting pressure without blitzing, and they did a good job of that today.
Speaking of blitzing, Marques, I do have those stats since you brought up Trevor Lawrence being under pressure a bit more this week than he had in previous weeks. Should be noted, a backup in Jonah Monheim at the center position, and then Walker Little starting at right guard for the first time in his career today. So 2 starting offensive linemen out of this one. But on the subject of the Colts blitzing, this is from NFL Pro Focus. The Colts blitzed Trevor Lawrence on 47.7% of his dropbacks in week 17. That was the second highest blitz rate in a game this season, trailing only week 14 when they blitzed Lawrence on 51.5% of their combined dropbacks. We talked about it last week. Trevor's been pretty good against the blitz. I honestly didn't think he was the problem. He was the reason this was an ugly game. Yes, he did throw an interception in the end zone, his first interception in a month's time. But ultimately, in this 23-17 win, he was, ironically, 23 of 37 for 263 yards, an average of 7+ yards per completion, the 1 interception, 2 rushing scores. Again, it wasn't pretty, but it was gritty, yes. And I also thought it, in terms of making checks at the line, balancing that defensive pressure from the Colts, I thought that Trevor Lawrence, outside of those 2 or 3 plays, he really was the reason, maybe the reason, that the Jags continued to move the ball up and down the field.
He was. He used his legs a lot. And the way you envisioned Trevor playing when he first came into the league is what you saw him doing today. And he seems like he's stronger. He runs with more power and authority. Now, you don't want him turning into Bronco Nagurski. A couple of times he dropped his shoulder and went into people, and I'm like, oh, no, Trevor, don't do it, man. Just slide. But the use of his legs, it nullifies a lot of what people try to do to him. And people don't understand, like, and this is just a rudimentary way to explain it. If they blitz and you got one alley to get out, generally, if those routes are run deep enough, especially if they're man-to-man, they got their back to you. And there's a couple of times when Trevor took off on the side, he didn't run out of bounds. He turned and cut that thing upfield and got 5 or 6 or 7 yards extra. And I really thought it started to set the tone. When he does that and he shortens the down and distance, if it's 1st and 10 because they incompleted a pass, or 1st and 15, and he's able to go down and get 7 or 8 yards, well, that cuts everything and leaves everything on the board in terms of the next play call. So I just thought when he got to the red zone, they were playing a certain way, and he played it smart, and he got those things, got those touchdowns. And unlike against Denver, I don't believe these touchdowns were design runs. I think these were, okay, I got that. And it's really, really nice to see that light coming on really, really fast. Like at the first moment or sign that whatever he was looking for isn't going to be there, he automatically finds the secondary thing to do, and he uses his legs. And I think it opens up another dimension to this offense.
And I just thought Wigg, he was pretty good 2nd and 3rd down, changing the play at the line of scrimmage to either get to a run play, whether that was a zone read design run for him or for Travis Etienne, or just changing the play at the line of scrimmage. And I know there are those of you who are still struggling with the Jaguars taking the play clock all the way down to 1, 2, 3 seconds left maybe on the play clock. But ultimately, hey, it caught the Colts off guard on that 4th and 1 play. Did it not, Wigg?
It did. And you know, that's part of it. You know, the familiarity, the things that you do. And that came right after a timeout. So I'm pretty certain and sure that Liam said, run that thing all the way down. You know what, Marcus, I'm going to tell you, when I played football, you remember that crab drill, that little cage, and you had to get down? I'm going to tell you something that I can't stand, and I know those big uglies on that line can't stand it either. He comes up to the line of scrimmage with like 26 seconds left, and he hikes that ball with 1 second. That's 25 seconds that those dudes are down in the three-point stance in the ready. That's a long time for a fat dude. Trust me, I'm fat. I know that my eyes would have been bloodshot red if I'd have been down there for 25 seconds that long. So it's the little things like that, the small things where they don't leave any stone unturned. Every single thing is gotten out of every single possession and every single play. And it's like they leave nothing left to be desired. So look, this is a team win for Jacksonville, man. And I'm happy that they got this win. And it's even sweeter that they got it the way that they got it, because you got to understand that the playoffs that's what's coming. Yep. Next week is going to be a blowout. The playoffs are coming, and nothing is going to be easy in the playoffs. You are going to have things that are going to happen that you have to overcome it. And I think they're getting more and more confident that they can do that. And by the way, when you talk about him changing plays, that's a coach's dream, because it's an extension. Even if he changed it to something Liam wouldn't have changed it to, it's something that they can discuss, and it shows that he has the confidence to do it. And that's okay. If it's a good play or a bad play, if it's what you saw, go with it and let it rip. Let it rip doesn't just mean throwing it. Let it rip means let it rip up here too.
I'm glad you brought this up, and it's a good way to end this topic before we dive into the offensive line woes. Marcus, this idea of winning ugly, and in the postseason, you need to be okay with gutting victories out that may not be as aesthetically pleasing, that may not be a 14-plus 2-possession victory like the Jaguars have now done in 6 of their 12 victories this year, 3 of them over playoff teams. This one was a bit of a callback to the Arizona game, that Raiders game, where they moved the ball up and down the field, but ultimately bottled down when they got into the red zone and had those self-inflicted wounds, but they still got the job done. You tell me, as the former player on the squad show, is it important? I don't want to go back to last week when we heard the Broncos fans saying we needed this loss. It humbled us. It got us back. But did the Jaguars need to win an ugly game to remind themselves, hey, we can also win in this fashion?
You don't need to have an ugly win. But if you do have an ugly win, what it does, it tells you that when things don't go right, you can still win. So that's what they needed. They needed that confidence booster that if things don't go well, like Trevor Lawrence threw an interception today that was not a great throw. He didn't have his feet planted. He tried to get Parker Washington on the backside, the end zone backside fade. Great play by the linebacker, turned his head at the right time, made a great play. Happens, right? Happens. Offensive line, we're going to really get into their footwork and their hat placement, and for goodness sake, stop swinging the freaking door and open up the short corner, right? Please stop that. But again, the win's the win, right? So again, what I'm hoping is the Jaguars can watch film, break down the things they saw, and then really work hard this week, fine-tune the things against the sorry Titans, and get ready for the playoffs. And again, every team in the playoffs, put it like this, the playoffs are the best teams in the NFL with the best records going against each other, trying to win to get to this Lombardi trophy. It's the best of the season that you're going to play every single week. You're not going to blow out the best all the time. So you have to learn how to win ugly, gritty, and gutty in order to make a run and be a Super Bowl champion, period.
Hey, you got to be okay with being down 10, T-Wig, and finding a way to work your way back into it and not flinch. Not flinching, no flinch. That has been a consistent rally cry from Liam Cohen in this administration, and you saw it play out in reality here on this fine Sunday. Let's take a timeout. I know Marcus is itching. Marcus needs to get that offensive line guru hat on. He needs to diagnose from Cole Van Lanen across the line to the ailing, illness-plagued Anton Harrison. We're going to dive into it coming up next here on a post-game edition of the Jaguars Squad Show.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Welcome back into this post-game edition of the Jaguars Squad Show. Marques Ogden, Tony T-Wig Wiggins, Mia O'Brien, excited to be entering Marcus's laboratory. The offensive line guru class is in session, folks. And you guys are coming in hot with the questions. A reminder, this is an interactive program, so leave your comments, leave your questions, whether that's for Marcus along the offensive line or it's on the defensive side of the ball, which we will also get to specifically in today's program, or something else entirely. We've reserved live Q&A for the end of the show. First things first, though, Marcus, this one is from Different, Just Different. What were y'all watching? He cleaned it up in the second half, but Little was missing a few blocks. Not sure who cleaned it up in the second half. Maybe he meant Trevor. Maybe he meant someone else along the offensive line. Big picture. Let's go left to right. Let's take it 30,000-foot view, whichever direction you would like to take it, Marcus, evaluating the offensive line in this 23-17 win over Indianapolis.
So let's go basically first half, let's say. So the first half was definitely a lot of miscues, a lot of hits on Trevor Lawrence. It was not a great beginning in the game. And I saw the offensive line, I'll go from left to right. Cole Van Lanen did a really good job being aggressive in pass protection to the best of his ability. But what Cole Van Lanen does not do well is when he has a guy that's a little bit faster and has more kind of a shifty type of a pass rusher, he does not do a good job of keeping his backside foot firm, right? His back foot, instead of being at a 45-degree angle, keeping firm and hard to like make the guy go wide, his back foot swings open. We call that opening the gate. And when you swing your backside foot, it's really hard for you to be able to keep the pocket firm, because what happens is when you try to run the guy past the quarterback, you're actually running him straight into the court. Did you all see a lot with like the line or like trying to like push the guys by Trevor Lawrence? But unfortunately, they couldn't do it because the corners were so short or soft. When you try to run a guy by them at that angle, you're open your foot before 3 to 5 yards in depth of your set, you are going to run your defensive man into the quarterback. And that happened a lot in the first half. Ezra Cleveland did not do a great job in the first half of keeping his body firm with inside position. I saw a couple of times where the defensive tackle beat him to the inside to get pass rush because he was trying to he was oversetting. Instead of taking a short set, being more firm, he got too square. When you're a guard, you should cover about 3/4 of the man. If you get too square or square up, like right down the middle, you give the guy what's called a two-way go. You saw a lot of times Ezra kind of bending his back a little bit in pass protection. He was oversetting. The center was he was not very comfortable in the beginning, getting himself set to like how to get back and kind of see the whole view. The right guard, Walker Little, really great at his effort was very, very well seen the first half, but again, he's a taller guy. He does not have a lot of great leverage. He's not built to be a guard, okay? He's tall, he's lanky. That's not really a guard type of a build. And then Anton, he was doing a lot of leaning and lunging. Instead of like trying to keep a firm set and keep your back upright and keep the weight on your inside foot or toe to keep you have good balance, his weight got kind of like in the middle to the outside of his body, and he was lunging and leaning a lot, which gave another short corner. So you saw a lot in the first half. The Colts were hitting Trevor Lawrence a lot. There was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of blitzing that was coming along. Now, in the second half, the guys did a much better job with their technique. There was a lot less opening the gate by Cole Van Lannon. Ezra had a lot better of his sets, making the guy go. There's a saying as offensive lineman: if you're going to beat me around the outside. Gives me at least a little bit of a chance to push you by. The center, he got a lot better getting back in pass protection. He was not as aggressive. He was more viewing where he was at. And then Walker Little got a little bit more firm with his we call it like your sit, where you sit down on a guy trying to bull rush you. And then Harris got a lot better at just keeping his back upright and not lunging or leaning. So again, in the first half, there was a lot of just footwork, opening the gate too much, oversetting, not keeping firm, back bending, back lunging. All these things are going to play against you in pass protection. So they cleaned it up, but going into the playoffs, the Texans, those are the guys, like these guys are going to be coming at you. So you got to clean this up, because in the playoffs, if you have that type of film after you haven't fixed it against the Titans, the guys you play are they're going to blitz more, because they're going to see, you're not getting back in pass protection, you're oversetting, you're opening the gate, we're going to bring more pressure, we're going to give our ends more of a two-way go, we're going to give our D tackles a two-way go, and that's going to be a lot of pass protection nightmare heading into the playoffs.
Elite stuff, Marcus. And T-Wig, I do want to let you know, if you want to ask any questions at any point too, Marcus's class is open and it's in session. So I can be a student, you could be a student. Everyone in the comments is here to learn from the former NFL offensive lineman. Let's begin with Hef's question first before we get to T-Wig. He says execution, especially early in wide 9 double mug pressure looks, was a problem. Luckily, Trevor is extremely athletic and killed him with his legs and got them out of going upfield in their pass rush lanes. What did you make of some of those mugged pressure looks on Sunday, Marcus?
So what happens is with the wide 9, right? He's exactly right. So a wide 9 is going to be almost impossible to hook in the running game. With the wide 9, what you have to do, you got to take a good hard angle step and take your second step and get it down the ground, and then you got to get your motion and your body going to the guy, and you have to kind of like, we call it, through a stalemate and push, because it's very hard to hook a wide 9 in the running game. Now in the pass protection game, what you have to do either a 45-degree set, cut down that space and allow him to come to you. But again, with a wide 9, you cannot open your back foot and swing the gate or swing your hips before with a 9 5-yard, because a wide 9 is so far out. If you swing your hips even at a 3-yard, when you swing, the guy is so wide, his momentum's going to carry him at that really hard 45-degree angle. And then by the time you try to push him, all he's going to do is drop his inside foot and hip and then press you 90, because he knows the quarterback's going to be right about that 5 to 7 yard mark. So with a wide 9, you have to be aggressive, but you have to maintain your inside leverage, and you cannot swing your hips open. The reason Trevor Lawrence was able to get away from the pass rush second half, the guys gave him the space. They were not giving short corners. They were not turning their hips as much. They were more firm with their pass protection, which allowed Trevor Lawrence, when they would push him by, he was able to step up. Because in the first half, a short corner, if you try to run a guy, you're not going to do it. Second half, better footwork, better balance, better body position. They were able to ride. We call that ride the guy by the pocket or by the quarterback. They rode him by the quarterback. He could step up. And again, Tony, great play by you. If you blitz a guy almost 50% of the time, if you don't get there and it's man-on-man coverage, that course got at least 7 to 12 yards to run before anybody gets close to him. And that's why Trevor Lawrence in the second half, he would step up. He said, "Oh, they're going cover 0 now. I'm past that. I'm past that dog blitz up front. Let me go ahead and try to get 7, 8, 9, 10 yards of carry." And that's what happened in the second half. Because again, the guys were able to give him, as a tackle, you set the width of the pocket, right? You have to keep guys out wide. As a guard, you set the depth of the pocket. So the more you allow quarterback to step up and see his lane and get out of the pressure and run after the blitz, he's past the blitz. This is exact. And again, right, Trevor, T-Wigg, at 6'6", 40 pounds, he'll drop a shoulder every once in a while. And if it's a safety or corner, I'll take that all day. Linebacker, don't do that. But if it's a corner, I'll take that all day. 6'6", 230, 240. I'm about with that speed coming. I'll take Trevor Lawrence every single time against a safety or a corner. Linebacker, use your head and slide.
When I saw him on a couple of occasions, early on in the game, I said, okay, he's got it now. He did something to change the play in the first half and change the protection. So there's 2 people lined up with Anton. People always say you take the inside guy because he's the closest to the quarterback. Anton takes the inside guy. Outside guy has to make a choice because ETN runs in that direction. He let ETN go by and decided to come in for pressure. Trevor threw the screen right to him. So now you get a play where, as opposed to letting people go by so you can fool them with the screen, now they're coming on a blitz, and now your screen guy turns out to be hot because he didn't go with it. Even if he goes with him, it's still a mismatch because it's an edge rusher guarding ETN. The second one was the blitz came from the left side. It came from a little depth, though. It was the linebacker off the ball. But on that side, Brian Thomas Jr. went up and out, right? And he threw right into where the blitz came from again. And there was nobody out there except BTJ, the defensive back, and the tight end. And they went for a completion. I said, okay, he's on to it now. He sees it. Now, he still had some trouble on a couple of plays after that, but it's because it was a jailbreak right up the middle when they ran some kind of twist game, and it didn't, and it got home. But for the most part, when he can see the trouble and get an answer pre-snap, and he's on the same page as his receivers and backs, that's when you know this offense is clicking. And on those 2 particular plays, it probably lent a hand in slowing down the Colts too, because now they know they can't free run like that anymore.
Well, the problem is, right, T-Wigg, great assessment. If I'm the Colts, right, and I know you have a rookie center and a guy that's really a left tackle playing right guard, I'm going to do my blitzing predominantly inside from the 4 hole, which is all between the right guard and right tackle, and the 5 hole, which is between the left guard and the left tackle. I'm bringing my blitzes in that 5 hole, that 3 hole, that 1 hole, that 0, that 2, or that 4, because that's where I know they don't have a lot of continuity. There's not a lot of cohesion. So I'm going to do what? Bring delayed blitzes. I'm going to do a lot of stunts in games. And that's exactly what happened early in the game. You saw the Jaguars offensive line in the middle not have a lot of continuity, not working together. They haven't done it a whole lot. Like I said, Walker Little is really a tackle. The center, who's going to be a good player, he's a rookie, not a lot of experience, right? And Ezra Cleveland's a really good guard, but again, he was oversetting a lot because, again, he was used to playing with the other center, Hansley, who was out. Yep. And so he can, if you know a guy, if you're a little bit more aggressive and set harder, but you're the guy beside you, it's got your back, you're okay. Like, you asked every left guard I played with my brother, if I knew if I could miss the guy and the job was around, he would have my back. His body presence, his size would allow me to do that. They didn't have that today. Again, a right guard who has never been there, has his first start at right guard, and a rookie center. It's very difficult on the road in a place that it's a division opponent. They don't like us. They want to beat us, just like Cleveland beat Pittsburgh today. Great job, Cleveland, by the way. So again, right, that's what it comes down to. You have to have that continuity. But the Colts did a good job. But you saw, right, T-Wigg and Mia, in the second half, the blitzes got a little bit less because we're getting beat with by the court. And they saw the Jaguars fix that footwork and clean up their body position. They're like, we're not getting there, and he's getting by us. We better stop doing this. Otherwise, they keep getting that 8 to 12 yards a pop. And they start to kind of pull back. They kind of start to kind of call the dogs off.
Yeah, shout out to the Browns. Any way that we can help any team that's affiliated with Marques Ogden and his family, shout out to the Browns. Most appreciated by most of the fans up there in Baltimore. So making it a de facto showdown for the AFC North title. Of course, the AFC South title will be decided by the Jaguars, who control their own destiny if they can win next week against the Tennessee Titans. Couple more in the chat for you, Marcus, on the offensive line front before we flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. You can keep those questions coming as well, and T-Wigg, Marcus, and I will hit them coming up here in just a bit. This one is from Robert Marcus. Can you fix teams that use stunts?
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer is yes. Teams that do a lot of stunting in games, the key is getting a lot of slide protection versus base protection. And again, you saw that early. There was a lot more base, and that's why, like, when Ezra Cleveland tried to jump, his guy got beat to the inside. The center was going the other side because there was man on man with Ezra, because that's probably like he was their veteran in the inside today. So it's getting a lot more base. When you go base, though, it's a gamble, because if you miss on the base protection, nobody can help you. So the way you have to fix teams that stunt, a lot more slide protection, gap protection, and what you could also do is you can actually just snap and have your center kind of pull back and kind of get about a yard to a yard and a half behind your guards, and whoever needs the help, the center can go ahead and put himself over there as long as the team is not blitzing. But again, if you go base protection against blitzes, it's hard. So if I'm the Jaguars, I'm going to do a lot more slide, a lot more zone, and a lot more gap protection, because that basically go from blocking a man to blocking an area, and that's when you don't worry about stunts or game, because you know wherever way you're gonna go, there's somebody that's coming behind you or alongside you. You can be a lot more aggressive in slide protection than you can in base protection, especially at the guards and the center position.
Now, Marcus, when you do that, let me ask you this question. When you do that, because there are times when I've seen, if teams get really good at running stunts, if you're guarding an area, I've seen offensive linemen, particularly the guys on the inside, when they turn around and they look and there's nobody there, and then they go somewhere and help, and then the team brings a linebacker really, really late. That's the only thing. That's what you have to look out for. But see, with a guy like Trevor, he'll let the ball go before that late blitz comes in, that delayed blitz. You want to late blitz guys that can't create extra time with their legs, correct?
Correct, because a guy that can create time with his legs, if you bring a delayed blitz, it's coming from so far back, right, T-Wigg? You'll see it in plenty of time. Trevor Lawrence, even though he's 6'6", 240 pounds, that is a great pocket quarterback. His legs are just as aggressive. So, for example, a blitz like that would be great against Phillip Rivers, who cannot run the same way. Or, any quarterback that does not have legs. But if you all watch the NFL today, a lot of these quarterbacks, now Sam Darnold, he's more of a pocket guy. But you look at guys like, Bryce Young from Carolina, Lamar Jackson, even like Jordan Love, like most quarterbacks today are dual threat, which basically doesn't allow you to bring delayed blitzes as much, because if you do that, those guys can see it coming, can elude it, and they're gone the other way. So delayed blitzes do not work as well against a dual threat quarterback.
One more from A. Brow, then I promise we'll take our next break. He says, what's up with those outside runs? It always seems to end in a negative play. I will pair that, Marcus, with this one from Hef. Weekly insertion that it's offensive line philosophical continuity in the building that perhaps is lacking or is the necessary next step for this Jaguars offense. We've gotten 35 minutes into the program. I'm shocked we haven't come to the run game conversation, which I feel like is a conversation each and every week here on the post-game edition of the Jaguar Squad Show. The Jags finished with 121 yards on the ground. Trevor Lawrence, 26 yards on 8 carries. Travis Etienne over the 1,000-yard threshold, 76 yards on the ground on 17 carries. That's a 4.5 yard per average clip. If you've tuned into this program before, Marcus has said time and time again, anything over 3, you're going to sign up for each and every day and twice on Sunday. But to that end, what do you make of perhaps the inside-outside zone run? I think you can mesh the two together, but I know some of our listeners tend to disagree.
So here's the thing, right? An outside zone is not going to be effective against teams that have a wide 9 technique with the defensive ends. It's not going to work because I don't care how bad a player is. There's no way I'm ever going to get hooked if I'm in a wide 9 against an offensive tackle. I'm just going to attack him 45, and what I'm taught to do is keep my outside shoulder outside of his outside shoulder, and he will never hook me. Now, what the Jaguars can do, they could be a little bit more physical at the point of attack, be a little bit more aggressive, have a little bit more of knee bend, less back bend, have more hand placement inside versus outside, and then make contact at the point of contact. Just continue to drive the guy, and if he wants to stay wide, take his ass to the sideline and dump him. That's what you have to do. Because here's the thing, you're never going to hook a 9 technique. Never. I don't care who you are or what you do. I watched the Ravens game on Thursday, last night. The Ravens did a really great job of hooking the guys from Green Bay, but they also were in a 7 technique. So here's the thing there are techniques when you're playing football. There is a 5 technique, which means you're right outside the tackle's shoulder. Okay, that's a 5. Then you have a 7, which means you're 2 spots removed from that tackle's outside shoulder. It's called a 7 technique. A 9 is 3 spots removed from the tackle's outside shoulder. You will never, ever hook a man 3 spots removed from your outside shoulder. Never. Ever. If you do, that player that you play against, his ass to be on the bench, on the sideline, because he will never play again in the NFL, ever. But a 7 or a 5, you can hook. So again, the Jaguars have to give what they are given. So if you have guys doing that, be more aggressive at the point of attack, and just drive his ass to the sideline, dump him, allow Etienne to cut off of your block, and then go up. So you'll kind of be running more about 4 yards to the outside the box, and then hit it and get going. Again, Derrick Henry, 216 rushing yards yesterday because they did exactly that. So the Jaguars, you have to take what the defense is giving you. And what you have to do is just take guys on the 9, drive them and dump them, and let Etienne, who's a great running back, cut off your blocks. Now, here's the thing, too. When that happens, your guards have to do a really good job of hooking the 3 technique, because what's going to happen is that guy, when he sees you run, he's going to run. That 3 is going to run his butt to the sideline. The guard has to cut off that 3 technique and get his backside shoulder in front of the defensive tackle's front shoulder. There's a lot that goes into this. Like, this is not easy to do. To get a great running game on the outside, it's leverage, it's hat placement. But again, there's a lot of moving parts. The Colts say, hey, look, if I'm a team, Travis Etienne, who's a great running back, I'm going to make him beat me in the tackles too, because he's a smaller guy. I'm not going to allow him to run on the outside because his speed is too much. So again, the Jaguars just have to take what the defense is giving them and stop trying to take what's not there and then make smarter decisions. It just, for God's sake, just be more aggressive. Like, just get in these guys' faces and just drive them wherever they want to go. End of story.
Take them out the club. Get them out of the club. And to your point, Marcus, that was certainly something, and T-Wig, you'll echo this, between 22 and 23 with Travis Etienne, that we saw such success in the outside zone run game in 22. Teams keyed in on it in 2023. They take away the edges. And in turn, while yes, Travis Etienne once again was among the league leaders in total yards, he did not have the same production that he did his first true season in the NFL, because teams recognize the success that could be had along the edge, and the Jaguars' offensive line was not escorting those wide 9 defensive ends the way Marcus so eloquently just described. We have to take our next break. When we come back, we'll talk defense. If you guys still have offensive line questions lingering, keep them coming. We will hit them in the live Q&A at the end of the show as well. The Jaguars Squad Show continues right after this. Hello, friends. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's sad. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance, all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. It's seriously simple to use and gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything they touch. Whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or just fill the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. And right now, you could get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNFL for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back into a post-game edition of the Jaguars Squad Show. Final score, Jacksonville 23, Indianapolis 17. Thanks so much for stepping into not just this hour-long podcast, which is always available on demand wherever you get your podcasts, and to the Locked On Jaguars YouTube channel, but also for stepping into Marques Ogden's offensive line classroom.
Yes.
We now pivot to the defensive side of the ball, because we could do a whole show just on offensive line with Marcus. This is why we do the show twice a week, folks, because we just have so much knowledge from Marcus. We need to get to the masses. And the same goes when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. But T-Wig, I will start with you, since we were the students in the last segment. Lead us off. Biggest takeaway, pun intended, from the Jaguars defense on Sunday was blank.
Jarrian Jones interception that he almost had a pick six on. It was huge because it absolutely changed the momentum. And it was the one thing that they had not done all day, and that is come up with a turnover, which is what they have done all year, especially in games that they've won. And it came at the right time. Now, they only got 3, but that 3 was important because it was the 3 that they didn't get earlier, and it gave them the lead. And now it put a little bit more pressure and a little bit more urgency on Indianapolis to score, because now it's like, hey, we have the lead. Even if you score, we're going to get the ball back. But the thing is up to that point, the Jaguars had not actually taken the lead because of something they had done on the defensive side of the ball. But to something that Marquis said earlier, Trayvon Walker is real good at setting the edge from base defense, right? When you're not that good, you put a dude out 9 wide because you're trying to, by alignment, he's already out there. So if you want to be there, I'll push you even further and let you go even further out. And I think just by design, that's what Marcus is saying, because even on offense, man, if you're trying to run a sweep, but he's already out there, then you got to cut back. And that means everybody else has to block, because where are you going to go? And because you're stretching the play out, the back end guys, the back seven guys are able to pin down. Now, flip that to the Jaguars. When the Jaguars line up in base, they already do a good job. You never hardly see people run outside of Trayvon Walker because of the way that he can control both gaps inside and out with his length and his quickness. So they do a really, really good job of doing that. Barely do they get outflanked at all. And then when they do, the Jaguars have the people to close out on those things. So they can almost cheat inside and hope that you try to bounce it outside, because you're not going to be able to outflank them. That's something that Trayvon, and people always talked about him at Georgia. I saw a tape where Glenn Schumann explained it. They told them not to go for sacks. The reason why you didn't want them to go for sacks is because the year before, when Georgia had people getting double-digit sacks, what was going on is draw plays and quarterbacks were scrambling for big yards. If you play gap and hole and don't go for sacks, and then the quarterback of the opposing team tries to run outside, and you basically got a track team on your second level, they can't beat them to the flank. That's the difference between having good players where you can line it straight up like the Jaguars do. They have speed all across they're a lot faster in their front seven than people absolutely realize. Trayvon, along with Devin Lloyd, are 4-5 guys, and they actually play that way. So it makes it a lot easier on the interior now, where people think that they're weak. You can actually cheat a little bit inside.
T-Wig says Jarian Jones is almost pick six, and then the play of Trayvon Walker, his biggest takeaways. Marcus, I know you were loving that front seven, especially the adjustments they made in the second half, in which they held Jonathan Taylor to a season low 19 total yards on the ground.
So Fergerberg, I think that's who I saw you put that comment up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to disagree with you. Walker was not the unsung hero. To me, he was the main hero.
Yeah,
and
right.
I saw a ton from him today. And again, T-Wig, excellent as usual. Trayvon Walker lines up in a wide 5 to a tight 7. That's what he does, because he's so big. He's got great length. He's got great footwork. He's got great agility. He's confident that if a guy tries to hook him, he can basically, we call a push-pull, right? He's going to basically take his inside arm and pull it down, okay? Pull that down, take your outside arm, and you're going to push it back. Boom. Push-pull, pop. And what happens on a push-pull, when you pop that outside arm, if that elbow locks on a push-pull, the guy in front of you is done. There's nothing he can do, because what happens if you can lock a defensive lineman wants to lock their elbows out and keep separation in the running game. We want to have our hands and hat and elbows nice and bent inside of you, saying, I'm up in your face. I want to drive you into the ground. They want to have extension and they want to have leverage. Push, pull, boom. So Trayvon Walker is excellent at the push-pull, which is why teams cannot run against the Jaguars. That's why I have the #1 run defense in the National Football League. This is not a mistake. Like, here's the thing, guys. Before this season, I didn't really watch a ton of football. I would watch here and there, but now with this show, I watch every week. And I'm like, man, I really do know about this game. Like, geez, like, these guys are doing exactly what they are supposed to do. And again, Josh Hines out on the other side does the same thing exceptionally well. When you have guys that are that big, that athletic, and you don't have to maneuver them or align them so wide to keep them to keep the edge in the running game, you have a really special player, because what that allows you to do is play both the pass and the run, and you're telling your opponents, I don't care if you try to go outside, we are big enough, we're athletic enough to do a pivot, to get our hips to the outside. What they do is, right, T-Wig, when you're taught if you see a zone coming, you're taught to take your hips and your butt and torque it to the outside and face the sideline, and then push your outside shoulder, control the gap, and that's why they've done a great job against great running backs. Have them have season lows when it comes to rushing the football. It is not by accident.
So that's why also when people look at the combine, and this is something that they got on Trent Baalke about, they go, oh, I guess his arms aren't long enough. the long arm is important. Trayvon Walker's first sack in the Hall of Fame game, he long armed his way to the sack. And it's almost like, if you ever watched the cartoon when a little guy trying to hit the other dude, and the other dude just has his hand on his forehead and he's just swinging. That's really what it is, and it's about control. They are able to extend their arms. And I remember when Walker Little was in camp one year, and they were working on getting his arm. He was putting his hands up too late. The dude was already too close to him, and he couldn't get any leverage because now his elbows are tucked into his rib cage. You want those hands up early enough to prevent that guy from being able to long arm you, because then he can control you. So to what Marcus was saying with Trayvon, remember all of that talk when people were saying, move him inside, move him inside, move him inside. I got their sentiment, but no, he can play defensive end, as y'all can see. The problem is when they had him in a 3-4 and a 5-man front, and they had him 9 wide and he's standing up getting a running start. Sometimes the running start ain't good. When somebody is big and strong and violent, you want him right up on the person in front of him so he can take advantage of him. The running start, you can see him coming. So the thing is I don't mind him being close. I don't want him inside all the time. Put him at defensive end, right, like Marcus said, as a 5 or 6, and let him whoop that guy with his strength and his quickness so he can play 2 gaps, 1 inside and 1 outside. And he doesn't want to cheat too far inside and give up his leverage, because he's good enough that if he has outside contain, how many times did you see guys at Georgia or Alabama do this on the bag, on the dummy, and they're doing this? Mm-hmm. Gap it, get him up now. Use your eyes to see where he's going. And you can always see Trayvon when he's like this, he's still like this. And he can only do that because he has more leverage. He has more of that guy than that guy has of him. And now he's looking around. And that's the only thing I'll say is unsung about it. Most normal eyes can't see that type of stuff. And that's why everybody looks for sacks and stats as opposed to looking at real good football plays.
So I'm gonna give you all a little bit of a secret, and you all can watch this in future games. As a defensive lineman and offensive lineman, running game wise, the defensive line wants to get extension, lock their arms out, and control the guy at the point of attack. We want to be inside, have our elbows tight to our ribs, have our hands on your chest, and we want to drive your butt into the ground. That's running game. In the passing game, it flips, okay? Defensive line want to be close to you and get up inside, uncomfortable, to get your hands off of them, make a move, and go by you. We want to have extension, locked out, and control you in the pass protection game. So it flips. One area, we want to be close and in your face in the running game. One side, we want to be extended. On the other side of the ball, it's the flip-flop. So again, this is where leverage and long arm and ability to go. Again, I'm not worried about a guy who's 250, 260 pounds trying to bull rush me coming from a Y. If I'm 310, 320, I've got a good low body and look, but I don't care about that. But I do care if a guy is that big, 260 in my face, and if I try to jump him or aggressive and I miss, or he long arms me, or he chops me or gets off my outside edge, I'm screwed. Because again, Tony, at a wider rusher position, the main move guys do is bull rush. Because what happens is it's hard to time the hand chops, things like that, when you're running full speed versus being in front of a guy, getting off the ball, 1, 2, woo, and I'm gone. Because I can time that chop, that rip, like boop, 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 I'm gone. So that's what happens. So it's all a science. It's all part of the whole chess game of football.
First of all, thank you for the sound effects. And you did it twice. So you doubled down on the sound effect. But we actually saw what we're talking about today on the 1 sack when both Trayvon and Josh Allen literally pushed the dude. They sandwiched Phillip Rivers. I don't know who got the sack, but it may have been a team sack. But it was Josh Allen and Trayvon. They both were pushing their linemen into Phillip Rivers. And one of them actually, I think Josh's guy knocked him down. So that's the perfect what you're talking about when you talk about leverage. That's just not a guy being stronger than another dude. Sometimes what it is the dude getting leverage and having better technique, and there's nothing you can do about it.
The way you stop a bull rush is you sit, you hop, and you push or extend. And if a bull rush is coming and you can sit and push out, it's over. It's done.
Do you remember when Jordan Davis did that? He did that in the preseason when he was a rookie, and everybody thought it was a loss. And all the NFL defensive linemen, I think it was Merriweather, all of them was like, "No, dog." Because the center from the other team in practice, no, it was the center in practice. He was hopping back. Jordan Davis pushed him, and the dude was literally hopping and continued to reset. But he hopped backwards like 5 times, and all the NFL linemen came online and said, "You don't know what you're watching," because the dude actually did a good job.
Yeah,
it just looked funny.
If you hop it like hop,
like bang, bang, bang. It was like reset.
With the guy, that guy is not touching your quarterback.
Right.
It's not possible. But again, a bull rush is designed if you have sloppy feet, if you play high and you don't sit your butt down against them charging into you. That's why nobody could bull rush my brother, because he was so big. His knees were always bent. He always had great and at 6'9" with arms like, with those long ass arms, you were never getting into his body. A bull rush was if you're into the guy's body or your arms are so locked out, he can't stop your drive. And again, when Trayvon Walker and Josh Hines got the sack, they both had better leverage. They were underneath the tackles. They were just driving them back and dumped them like you dump your groceries on the belt line to get your stuff and pay for your groceries at the store.
If you saw my eyes wandering during that amazing back and forth with regards to defensive line prowess, it is because, yes, the Buffalo Bills just successfully ran the play that ETN fumbled today, that hook and ladder play. Jags still got the win. It's all good. Let's see if the Bills can get a win. 8 seconds left on the clock. They're down to the Eagles 13-6. The beauty of a live show. We've got a bunch of other defensive questions, but we just did such a great breakdown of defensive line. I didn't want to break the flow. We'll get to some of those questions on the other side in our final segment on this week 17 edition of the Jaguar Squad Show. What's going on, gang? The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, one segment to go, gentlemen, here on a Week 17 edition of the Jaguar Squad Show post-game edition. I mentioned there was one defensive question we did not get to. We talked about that front seven for Marques. I know they were a very big winner on Sunday against the Colts. How about the back end, the secondary? A. Brow says, hopefully Camp will walk up those cornerbacks. Is he afraid of our DB's speed? They are aligned 9 yards off the ball. T-Wig, let's begin with you. What do you make of A. Brow's assessment, especially considering both Jarian Jones and Antonio Johnson with picks on Sunday, and Jarian Jones was your biggest takeaway from the Jaguars' defensive performance?
Yeah, so against Denver, it bothered me that they weren't more sticky. I did also wonder why they didn't play more man-to-man today, because Phillip Rivers can't scramble, and having your back to him doesn't hurt. And he really doesn't throw the ball on the rope. But you know what? Then I thought about it, and it's me versus me. They're doing what they're built to do. And you can't run from the grind. You got to do what you do, but just do it better. That's what you have. And I keep saying that. Ain't nobody changing schemes overnight. You just don't do that type of stuff, especially when you're playing a team that's not as good as you are. Phillip Rivers didn't have 150 yards passing. It may have seemed like during the game those things were problematic. If the Jaguars score at 3 field goals instead of turning the ball over 3 times, 1 on downs and 2 on turnovers, nobody's thinking about those little bitty yards. So while the game is going, it's like you want them to make every single play. At the end of the day, you look up and they gave up 140 some odd yards, man. Ain't nothing wrong with the corners. They played well enough to win. I know we want to nitpick everything, but in my opinion, they'll be fine. They just have to get a little bit more sticky and be a little bit more opportunistic, back end, front end, complementing each other, playing better.
One more on the defensive line. Marques will send this one your way. This is from King David. I saw Dennis Gardick getting more doubles on defense today and last week as well. Thoughts on the progression of the once upon a time simply special teams ace and sometimes designated pass rusher who's really been able to complement 41 and 44 out on the edge?
That's what you want. You want a guy who you weren't expecting a lot from to come in and bring you that type of energy, that type of movement, that type of pass. Because if they're double teaming him, that means that somebody else is going to be singled up, right? This is how it's going to help the Jaguars late in the playoffs. You have guys that can come in and bring that uplift, bring that energy, bring that effort. And again, those are the type of guys that are super hard to block. Like I remember I used to block Kyle Vanden Bosch, and I've done before. Man, high effort guy. If you didn't put Kyle in the dirt, he would keep coming and keep coming. And that's exactly what Gardoke is doing for Jacksonville. He's a guy, he reminds me a lot of a guy named Brandon Green who played for Jacksonville at defensive end out of Rice. He never, ever quit. Brandon, if you didn't dump Brandon in the dirt, he just crawl, he bear crawl, he crab, wherever he had to get that pressure. So the Jaguars this is why I keep telling everybody, they've got something special because they have guys that can come in. It won't be as good as like the Trayvons or Josh Hines, but they're good enough to give you that extra pressure, that extra energy off the bench, get guys, give a breather and bring them back in for more plays. This is exactly why they're now what? They're 12-4.
Yep, exactly. Amen to that. I'll take this one from Eric, who says the turnovers weren't the problem during the game. It's those pesky penalties. We have to find a way to get less penalties or none for that matter. It should be noted, Eric, the Jaguars only had 6 penalties today. I say only because they've gone in that double digits in that department multiple times this season. And T-Wig's shaking his head. I think it was inopportune times for those penalties, but ultimately I did not think that was the reason that this game felt ugly late and the Jaguars had to grind it out.
No, you ain't turning. If you're turning the ball over at midfield, when you're in scoring range, you're already in your mind say, okay, we got at least 3. On 3 different occasions, and you got a kicker that could have kicked it from Fort Wayne, Indiana, okay? And on 3 plays, you're on the 30 or better. You already know you have points. So when people say, somebody told me earlier, nobody would complain about the hook and ladder if it worked. All right, the play didn't just not work, because if it didn't just not work, it's 2nd and 10. It was a disaster because you turned the ball over and did not get points. All right. So sometimes even when, like the Colts, they only gave up 3 points on Jarian's interception, but it was big. Those 3 points were big because, one, it stopped you from getting points. It stopped you from keeping the defense on the field a little bit longer, and it gave them a lead. And now you got a clock, and now you're saying, okay, we're going to have to score twice if we get field goals, and we're going to have to score at least a touchdown to win it. That creates a whole bunch of situations. People love to look at turnovers and say, well, it didn't hurt us. Yes, it did. You won the game. They were literally throwing the ball into the end zone for a Hail Mary at the end. If you get 9 points, they're not doing that. So I don't want to hear that turnovers don't hurt you when you're about to score points and then all of a sudden you don't have any points at all. It is hard to get inside of somebody else's 30-yard line. You need to come away with points. Go find Brandon McManus then if you don't think it's important when you got a kicker that can kick. That is a weapon for you, and it's something that the other team knows that you have. So guess what? They can't just back off and give you those little short gains if you're on the 40-yard line. They need to stay tight on you. So, I don't want to hear this. I've been arguing with people about turnovers. Those turnovers were way more important today than those penalties.
Before we get to our big finish, and by big finish, I mean the question that I have about 8 of you lined up in the queue asking the same exact thing. I am curious, T-Wigg or Marcus, whichever one of you wants to take this one from Robert, the kickoff coverage. We've seen more and more as the second half of the season has gone on. More teams are opting to just kick it right out the end zone and avoid even dabbling in the world of kickoff return game. But at the same time, if you're the Jags, you have a belief because the last few weeks your coverage team has looked better. You have a belief, well, we can pin them inside their own 35. And so why wouldn't we take our chances? Today, though, it came back to bite them in the butt not once but twice. And so in what way can they shore that up against the Titans, Marcus?
Stop trying to take gambles and make big time tackles if you're not going to be in your lane. That's the problem. Kickoff coverage is about you running down and staying in your lane and maintaining integrity and not trying to go outside your lane for kill shots, stuff like that. I know that guys on special teams want to run down there. They want to get into play. They want to crack somebody's head. They want to make the big hit. And I get that. And I understand. And I love that. But don't do it by not honoring and staying in your lane. Because what happens is big time things come back and they bite you in the butt. Because what happens is guys will they'll run and then a tackle gets missed, something like that. And instead of you being in your lane to kind of close in and close naturally, you're trying to come in for that kill shot. And then what happens? The lane that you are supposed to maintain, you've broken your contain. And the lane integrity is gone. And what happens? They come around the backside for that reversal, for that big game. That's where most kickoff returns go long. When somebody on the kickoff team breaks contain, does not stay in their lane because they're trying to get that big knockout ESPN shot and make their name, which I love it. But at the end of the day, man, focus on getting the win and keeping lane integrity. Do not break contain. Don't get out of your lane trying to get the big knockout hit.
All right, boys.
If you a kick returner wants to run north and south. If you go one way, if you go ole and go on one side of the block, you actually give him a place to go. If you don't, now you make him start juking. And he's going side to side, and he's easier to tackle. That's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Are you boys ready for the big finish?
Let's go.
Always.
Buckle up. Here we go. Fergerberg, thoughts on BTJ double clutching every catch. Soul Child, analysis on Brian Thomas Jr. Jason, BTJ is still disappointing. I don't think he will be here next year. We need a true big number one receiver to really have a chance. Jas, what happened to the deep shot down the sideline? Was BTJ late or did Trevor just throw it too early? Who wants to begin in trying to dissect the curious case of the second year?
I've been listening to T Wigg on this for a while. So T Wigg, you're up, sir.
Well, Jimmy Smith, the GOAT, says that Brian Thomas Jr. stance is too high. And he kind of has been saying, if your stance is low, you can release and stack easy because the guy can't get hands on you. And today on that pass, Brian Thomas Jr. didn't get touched, but he did come off the line a little bit late because I think he anticipated contact. On the double popping, that's a confidence issue. And there's one place I learned where you get confidence. It's the weight room. You got to get stronger. If you're stronger and you attack it, even if it's only a little bit of strength in the off season, it gives you the confidence you need to catch the ball. He's thinking too much, man. And you got to be instinctive when you're out there having those car accidents. The thing is he has all the talent in the world. It's just the mental thing right now. And the way that you attack it, yeah, you get on the jugs machine all day. I just think you need to find some magic in the weight room. And instead of blocking guys like 8 Deuce, call them on the phone and say, okay, I need your help.
You know what? That's exactly what I was going to say. Humble yourself and go and find a big-time receiver like a Jimmy Smith, who was great in Jackson, one of my teammates, like a Michael Irvin. And Michael Irvin said it best. Michael Irvin said when he was playing wide receiver, he would be down in a 3-point stance, pretty much. And he talks about leverage. I don't care where you are on the football field. Leverage is everything. Low man wins. Wide receiver, O-line, D-line, running back, it doesn't matter. You have to maintain better leverage than the guy that you're going against. If you can't have good knee bend, if you can't run low, if you can't have good hips, if you can't have, and I'll say, this is why, Phillip Rivers, my hat's off to you. At 45 years old, there's no way I could get down to a 3-point stance right now and pass protect or run block because my right hip would be like, yo, what are you thinking? No way. That's what it comes down to, leverage and knee bend and staying underneath your opponent. And again, you're 100% right, T-Wig, when you're going across that middle. But here's the thing. If you go across scared, you are going to get hurt. You have to have confidence in yourself and strength and belief in yourself to understand what is the great Bruce Lee quote? Don't ask for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a tough one. That's what it is. And football is a tough sport. You can't ask for it to be easy because it's not. There's too much money on the field. Like, there's nothing. You know what I'm saying? There's none of that. You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, man, it all comes down to effort, drive, discipline. You have to be disciplined. You have to be effort. You have to have that effort. And again, BTJ, I respect you. I think you're a great football player. If you're struggling, find somebody that you know knows the position and ask for help. Wigg, I would always call Jonathan. Hey, man, I'm having a problem with this. I have trouble with that. He helped me with this. He's like, yep, we're going to go do this. We're going to do. I wish we had FaceTime back when I was playing, and I could have had him FaceTime and show me stuff like that. Like, what? Well, I'd have wore that phone bill out. Like, hey, show me this, show me that. Like, but for God's sake, man, get rid of the ego and find somebody that you know knows the game to help you get better. It's that simple.
I know one guy who hasn't shied away from the weight room and who's not lacking confidence. That's the Jaguars' leading receiver.
No doubt. No
Parker
doubt.
Washington. I'll give you another line, Marcus, because I just read the book and Parker and I have been talking about it in the locker room. Chop wood, carry water. There is something to be said in the daily disciplines, those daily deposits, process over assignment. And Liam Cohen's Jaguars are a certain testament to that mentality. Abrow asked about any announcement on what time next week's Week 18 matchup with the Titans will be. We will find out, just like the rest of you, live during Sunday Night Football this evening. You may want to just keep it locked to Mia O'Brien TV. If you've been a Jaguars fan for a couple of years now, you know, we sometimes got some friends in that department. So may try to get some intel on that, but I have already been assured this much. The Jaguars will not be on Sunday Night Football next Sunday. That much I can tell you, a less than 0% chance. And because the Texans and Jaguars both have an opportunity still at the AFC South crown, the NFL doesn't want one team to be able to rest starters or know the outcome of their division rival in a playoff race like this one. So you can expect, in my estimation, the Jaguars and Texans will both play at 1:00 next Sunday or 4:00. That part we should find out a little bit later.
Which makes sense.
The Bills just went for 2 and lost. So now the Bills, Chargers, and the Texans are all 11-5. So we at least
I have the odds. I have them in front of me. So this is according to our friend Brent Martineau over at Action Sports Jacks. If with the way that this currently is constructed, with the Bills losing, the Jags would be the 3 seed and they would host the Chargers, who would be the 6 seed. New England would be the 2 and they would host the Bills, the 7. The Texans are the 5 and they would go to Pittsburgh.
Or
Baltimore. Look at
well said, Marcus. Well said.
I couldn't even open my mouth to say that. Like, no, I was like, no, because it's going to be Pittsburgh next week. It's going to be Baltimore. So
Mo, I've been around MOB. You know what I didn't realize is MOB. I've been around Mia. She did it on purpose, dog. She was just trying to see if she was chin checking you to see if you was paying attention.
After I gave the Ravens all their love and their flowers a little bit earlier in the program.
No, we can't do that.
He may not have that Ravens jersey behind him, but if it's not the Jags, you know who Marques Ogden is pulling for deep in his heart of hearts. We appreciate the over 130 of you hanging out with us live on the Locked On Jaguars YouTube channel. If you missed any of tonight's program, you can go back and listen on demand at the Locked On Jaguars YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. We will be back later this week for a midweek edition of the Squad Show. And of course, we will look ahead to not just Week 18 against the Titans, but potential playoff opponents. Oh boy. Be sure to keep it locked here on the Locked On Podcast Network and Locked On Jaguars. We'll catch you next week.